Hi everyone, today we'll be making a macrame plant hanger out of recycled t-shirts. So with this I'd recommend using 2 t-shirts, but if you only want to use one then you just cut everything in much smaller increments. So with this we're going to fold over the t-shirt so there's a little kind of underlap at the top, and we're going to cut the seam off. And then I'm going to cut this at sort of like 1 inch dimensions, but if you wanted to use just one t-shirt you'd do 1/2 inch. So you chop nearly all the way through, so kind of just to above that fold line at the top, so you're not going all the way through to the end of the t-shirt, and then you use the one that you just chopped as a measuring guide so that you can make them all the same size, and you just keep going along like that. So then you keep cutting through all of it until you get to the armpit of the t-shirt. Then you're going to cut through the whole thing. With my t-shirt, the print on it is a little bit raised and a little bit plasticky. So when you do that, I would avoid using a t-shirt that's covered in that kind of printing because it will stop the t-shirt yarn rolling properly. So with something like this, the print's embedded into the fabric, so with that you could use it, but with that one as well, it's quite an old worn t-shirt, so the elastic's probably gone a little bit on it, so it's best to go for something that still has a really good amount of stretch to it. So then you should have a kind of rib cage looking thing, so your t-shirt will be all connected at the top. So we've got a really sneaky way to make a kind of continuous length of yarn. So you're going to cut diagonally. So to begin with, you're going to cut from kind of the middle of that connected bit up to that first little cut line up there. So you've got a diagonal going on. So then the next one, you're going to cut diagonally up to that next line, and you're going to do that along the whole thing. And this just makes a really good continuous strip of t-shirt yarn that should hopefully be the same size all along. When you get to the end, you're going to cut at a diagonal again through to kind of the side of that connected bit of the t-shirt. So now you pull and release it, so you can kind of see, because this has got that bit of printing on it, it kind of doesn't fold properly and gives it this really weird rib texture, whereas with this bit it curls up really nicely and creates a really kind of gorgeous t-shirt yarn that's really lovely to work with. So you can cut it much thinner than this if you like, but I always think this gives you a really nice kind of chunky t-shirt yarn. So you just pull it, release it, and then wind it up. It's really important as you do this to not pull it and then wind it, because if it's kind of stretched as it's left balled up, then it loses a load of its elasticity and it won't look as good when you come to use it. So then you should have a really nice ball of t-shirt yarn. So I'm going to do my other lengths out of a different colour. So I'm going to go with this nice kind of turquoise instead. So if you're using different t-shirts, it's important that they're kind of a same sort of thickness and same kind of stretchiness, because if they're really different it won't look as good. So we're going to do the exact same thing again and make sure that you chop it at the same sort of lengths. So if you want as well, rather than just guessing, you can use a ruler to mark out how big you want all of the strips to be. So the next thing to do is, once you've turned it all into yarn, cut it to the lengths shown on the sheet. So then you want to make sure that as you're measuring it, that you don't stretch the yarn too much. If you stretch it, you can end up with loads of different lengths. So we're going to start with a square knot, so you fold all of your cords in half and put them over something that you can easily do a load of knots around and take them off afterwards. So this should create 12 strands, and you're going to divide them into 3 groups of 4 and do a square knot. So with square knots, you're sort of using the middle cords as filler cords, so they're not going to move, and you're going to do this braid around them. So this should be on your sheet as well, but I'll do it a couple of times so you can watch it. And you want to leave a bit of a gap at the top so that you've got a loop that you can hang over things. And for a square knot, you do one on the right hand side and then one on the left hand side. So your left hand cords go in front, then the right hand cord goes in front of that, behind and up through the loop on the left hand side. So that makes one square knot, and you should have a kind of zigzag line going across the middle. So we're going to do one more. So the right hand goes in front, left hand goes in front of that, and then the left hand one's going behind and up through the loop on the right hand side. And then you pull it tight while holding onto the middle cords to pull it up around. And the same on the left hand side to create a square knot. So looping on the left hand in front of the middle cords, right hand goes in front of that, behind and up through the left hand side. So that's what it should look like at the top. So then you're going to leave a gap of 10 centimetres, and I would mark it off with a bulldog clip or anything really that you can use to just mark it all off. And I would always make sure that your shorter cords are in the middle. So you should have, if you're doing 2 different colours, then your shorter cords should be one colour. So now we're going to do a spiral knot. So a spiral knot is basically the same thing, but you don't change sides. So you always do it on the right hand side, and one knot on the right hand side makes one spiral knot. You have to make sure with these ones that you pull it really, really tight and hold on to those middle cords so they don't jump up, because when you pull it really tight you get this really gorgeous spiral knot. So you just keep doing it on the right hand side. So the right hand cord goes in front of those middle cords, the left hand cord goes in front of that and around the back. So you're going to do that 15 times on each section. So rather than doing this on the whole thing like we did before, we're going to use those 3 groups of 4 as individual little things to knot around. So on this, because I can see a bit of orange coming through, I'm just going to push it up a little bit just to make it a slightly neater knot. So then same again on the next ones, but I would make sure rather than measuring it as another 10 centimetres, I'd measure it against the last one that you did, because you have to remember that with this, with it being stretchy, sometimes it won't be exactly 10 centimetres, so it's best that it just looks like the other knot more than anything. So you can always count the middle rows, so it should be like rungs of a ladder, and that's a really good way to count how many you've done if you've lost track. And then exactly the same on the last ones. I've sped all of these bits up, but if you want a reminder, just go back to the first one and watch it slowed down again. After these bits, you can put a bead on the middle cords if you've got a bead big enough, but you don't have to. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do some square knots just for a little change of pace. So I'm going to do 3 square knots in between each lot of spirals, so that's one on the right hand side, then the same on the left hand side to make 1 square knot. So it's sort of 6 knots in total, if that makes sense. So right hand, pull it through. And then left hand side on top of that. So you can sort of almost already see the difference in between how just changing sides really flattens it out. And then do this below all of the other ones as well. So again, I'm going to speed this bit up, but you can always wind it back and watch the other ones slowed down again. So the next thing you're going to do is measure 5 centimeters and get 2 cords from one section and 2 cords from the other nearest one and join them together. So now, for example, my kind of tealy turquoisey cords are the middle rather than the outer cords, and you're going to do 1 square knot on each section. So that's 1 on the right hand side, 1 on the left hand side. So once you've done that first square knot, then you're going to get the remaining 2 cords from that other section and join them to the nearest 2 on the next section. So you're creating kind of like a diamond basket type shape to go around your plant pot. And then flip the whole thing around and do the same on the remaining 4 cords. Then get your plant pot and check that it works in there. And for the next one, so you kind of want these knots to be sort of 3/4 of the way up towards the top of your plant pot, and the next one you want it to be 3/4 of the way towards the bottom of it. So mine will be around about that sort of point. So then you're going to take them back to their original groupings. So again, for me, the turquoise ones are going to be on the outside and the orange ones are going to be on the inside. And you're going to do the same thing there and do 1 square knot going all the way around on each section. Test your pot again, and now we're going to do another layer of square knots underneath all of that will sit just at the base of the pot. So on these ones it'll be the orange cords on the outside again. So underneath there's loads of different ways that you can finish it off. You can do a big spiral knot by dividing all of your cords into 3 lots of 4 again and just repeating the same knot on the right hand side. Or you can do some big square knots or just do a big knot in general. So really changes how it looks depending on how you finish it. So I'm just doing a really big chunky spiral here. and you're done. The next thing to do is just to chop off the ends if you want to. You can leave them like that, but I always like to neaten them up a bit. But I'd recommend taking a little bit off and then taking a bit more if you want to, because with one like this I regretted taking that much off and think it looks a little bit stubby. So I'd always take a little bit off and then take more if you feel like you need to. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see any more, you can find me at Darn It Workshops on absolutely everything. Thank you, bye!